Let's get more on this now with Marc Ostwald in London. He's Chief Economist and Global Strategist at ADM Investor Services. Welcome back to the programme, Marc. Now, the US Treasury's intervention briefly pushed down yields, but that relief quickly faded. What does it tell us about the underlying strength of the bond sell-off?
It tells us that people want to diversify. It tells us that bond investors are particularly concerned about the size of the US fiscal deficit and the fact, more importantly, that there are no efforts really being made to contain that growth. When one considers that under the first Trump administration, Biden's administration, and this administration, US debt has doubled. There is a lot to be worried about. And so Mr. Besant's intervention is really a drop of water on a hot stone.
Meanwhile, Fed minutes reveal that several officials backed a July rate hike over inflation concerns. Does that suggest the markets may be underestimating the broader risks?
Well, I think to a certain extent markets are flying blind because Mr. Warsh doesn't want to provide any guidance. Markets are basically reacting to the latest set of data. My concern would be July is normally a very distorted month due to faultier seasonal adjustment on labor data, so that weakness may not be there. Inflation may have dropped a bit, but when we get the PCE deflators next week, they're going to be showing a much higher trend. But when one looks at the minutes, it doesn't look as yet as though there's a real majority for a rate hike at the moment. So at the next meeting, there may be later in the year once we have more inflation data and more indicators on growth.
Meanwhile, oil is holding on to gains as the US prepares new sanctions against Iran. Could that bring us even further away from a deal and keep those energy costs elevated?
The package of sanctions, whatever it is probably not going to be any more effective than any of the others. More importantly, even though Iran is not negotiating with the UAE, the package of the financial and commercial embargo that the UAE has imposed, if it's actually imposed properly, actually could do a lot more damage to the Iranian economy, even if it doesn't necessarily mean that that will drag them to the negotiating table with the US.
Interesting analysis there. Marc Ostwald, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.